Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. for the Institute for Dialectical Metarealism. I have my eyeglasses on because in just a few moments, I will be reading you portions, a small portion actually, of an article. Let me explain it a bit first. The article is taken from Newsweek. Now, I personally don't care for Newsweek these days. I used to feel as though it was a reasonably good competitor to Time and better, certainly, than US News and World Report. That was decades ago. Newsweek has kind of gone down in quality considerably, in my opinion, since that time. So I very rarely will go to Newsweek, but occasionally I will find a link to a Newsweek article, and if it's interesting, I'll read it. And that's what happened twice in the last few days, which surprises me. The article is about TikTok. Now, let me say, I suppose I am a member of TikTok, but I'm only a member because I joined through Google. I have no interest in the platform. I don't like the idea of only 30-minute podcasts. For me, that's not helpful since most of my podcasts go somewhat beyond 30 minutes, though occasionally slightly less than that. Originally, as I recall, TikTok was only, I'm not sure, was it 30 seconds or a minute, and they increased it to 2 minutes or something, and now it's 30 minutes. But in any event, that's not appealing to me. And the two times I've gone there, I've found it to be extraordinarily boring with no content that really interested me. So I haven't gone back since. Okay, this article in Newsweek is, as you would expect, about Newsweek. I'm sorry, about TikTok. That makes no sense. It's about Newsweek, huh? It's about TikTok. So let me go ahead and read just a small portion of the article and then launch into a commentary. The title of the article is TikTok Ban. Hey, you kids, dance off my lawn. It is authored by Jason Fields, Newsweek deputy opinion editor. Okay, let me read the very beginning of this article. I have had my faith in Congress restored by the bipartisan, yes, I said bipartisan, effort to end TikTok's reign as the primary tool of American idiocracy. Spoiler alert, Idiocracy is a Mike Judge movie in which Americans get so dumb because of our lifestyle choices that we water our crops with Gatorade. Hilarity ensues, as well as an encroaching famine. Sounds like a lot of fun to me. Big government is trying to make life better for all of us, even if it doesn't know it. That's actually the best part of the article. It's true that the House of Representatives voted overwhelmingly to take the micro video app out of app stores because it is owned by a Chinese company called ByteDance. All data collected by Chinese companies is easily accessible to the Chinese government by law. It is also true that the measure calls for ByteDance to sell TikTok within 6 months or face the consequences rather than banning the site. So I guess that means TikTok may actually not go away. Honestly, I could care less. Still, this is a step in the right direction. Even if it's not quite what we need, when we in the media are making it out to be. All right, I'll stop there. It's not really important to continue going on with it. And I will take off my eyeglasses because I don't need that article any longer. Here's the problem. Now, whether TikTok continues or does not continue, I don't care about. I think that certainly YouTube, this particular platform, Twitch, and Vimeo are much better than TikTok. And honestly, I have no use for TikTok. It doesn't interest me, and it doesn't have things that I have found. Maybe I've missed something, but things that I have found that are entertaining for my purposes. But here's the problem. What the article is saying makes no sense. Apparently, the author is concerned that the data collected by TikTok is available to the Chinese government. Is the author aware of an American agency called the National Security Agency or the NSA? Maybe not. But that's exactly what the NSA does. Spy agencies in the United States collect data all the time. Now, legally, those agencies, including the NSA, cannot use data that is collected of American citizens, but they are collecting it nonetheless on the pretense that if the law changes, which would allow them to access that data, the data will be easily available to them. If that doesn't make any sense to you, then I can tell you, you are not alone. In other words, the US government is doing almost exactly the same thing as China is doing. I don't see the difference between what China is doing with having access to data on TikTok and what the NSA is doing with having access to data everywhere. I simply don't see any clear distinction between those two different things. Now, maybe there is, but if there is, I do not understand it. So, it appears to me that really what the author of the article is arguing for is a restriction on freedom of speech, or at least freedom of speech if that speech is listened to or available to another government, a government which is presumed by some people, like China, in other words, to be an adversarial nation. Whether that is true is subjective. I have no idea whether China is an adversarial nation. To me, the United States is an adversarial nation, and I live here. So I really could care less about China collecting data. I am more concerned about the data collected by the US government because I live in the US and I don't like the US collecting data on me or, for that matter, on other people, especially people like me, because we are commies. And for decades, going back to the 1950s at least, with the Army McCarthy hearings, the US government has been trying to crush leftist movements. It did it with the Occupy movement, which you can debate whether that was leftist. It certainly was started by an anarchist organization. So I would say it is leftist, or at least left-ish. But maybe not. Maybe you think it's not. Regardless, the US despises the left. it does not seem to despise the right quite so much. Repeatedly, the United States, the CIA, tried to have Fidel Castro assassinated. Thankfully, they failed in each case. So when I look at the US government, I see that as a government which opposes my rights as a commie. Now, whether China would oppose my rights, I have no idea. I don't live in China. I don't care that much about China. China is not in my radar. So whether China is collecting data on people who dance around in circles on TikTok is really of no concern to me. And I don't understand why Congress should busy itself with something so trivial. I mean, after all, there are a lot more important things, in my opinion, that Congress could be focusing on, like, I don't know, global warming, the war in Gaza, which the US is actually supporting. That I really don't care about what China is doing with regard to TikTok. So I don't care if TikTok is not available through the App Store or Google Play. Doesn't matter to me. But the principle that the US government would take away freedom of speech from people who want to use TikTok for whatever reason, maybe because they like it. The fact that I don't like it, who cares what I don't like? Obviously, there is an audience for TikTok. A lot of kids like it. Well, I guess some adults like it too. So why shouldn't people be allowed to use a platform that they like? Because China is collecting data on mostly kids? I don't understand it. So, in my opinion, this whole fuss over TikTok, which has literally been going on for months, and nobody still knows what will happen. Because, again, according to that story, if China or that Chinese company sells TikTok to another company, I guess a Western company, maybe an American company, then TikTok might continue. But if China continues to own it, or a Chinese company continues to own it, then TikTok can no longer operate in the United States. And because of the power of the United States, I suspect that that would pretty much be a death blow to TikTok. Maybe not. Maybe TikTok will find an audience sufficient enough to support the company that runs it. I don't know. But regardless, why Congress would worry about TikTok collecting data, and I'm not even sure what that data is. What is it? Name? Age? I have no idea. When I signed up for TikTok, I did not sign up for TikTok. I simply linked my Google account with TikTok. Maybe that means that TikTok has some access to certain of my data on Google. I don't know, but I also don't care. But apparently, there are some people in Congress who do care a great deal, and they want you to make sure that you stay away from TikTok because the Chinese government may gain access to your data. So again, money speaks. capitalism speaks. The US government speaks. Imperialism, American imperialism speaks. What we are essentially seeing, in my view, is a battle between imperialisms, American imperialism and Chinese imperialism. Now, American imperialism is certainly a lot more powerful than its Chinese rival. Whether that lasts, who knows? But for the time being, the US has NATO. China has maybe Russia to an extent, but not entirely. So really, I think what this fight over TikTok comes down to is a desire to maintain US imperialism and to prevent a competitor company that is sometimes viewed as an adversary, namely mainland China, from gaining access to our Google data from a Chinese company. I don't understand it. But needless to say, that is what all of our tax dollars are doing, if you are an American like me, in paying the salaries of members of Congress. We are paying their salaries so they can try to shut down a dancing app. For the time being, this has been Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.